It was 1915, during World War I, when a wave of violence all but wiped Armenians from the map in Turkey and other parts of the dying Ottoman Empire. Hundreds of thousands died. Historians say more than 1 million, in what many scholars and Armenians view as the 20th century's first genocide.
The Turkish government today says the mass killings were not ordered by the government and happened during a war in which Turks were also victims. VOA web reporter Mike Eckel examined all sides' efforts to reconcile the past during a recent trip to Turkey. Here's his conversation with On Assignment's Rebecca Ward.
A lot of competing views in Turkey and in this area of the country. How did you feel as a reporter listening to one story and listening to another story and then sort it all out and put it on paper?
Well, the goal of the story was not to rehash old arguments and revisit old positions. It was genocide. No, it wasn't genocide. We killed you, you killed us. We killed more of you, you killed more of us. I mean, that's a pointless exercise. Journalistically, it's a pointless exercise. The goal was to try to figure out how the communities have evolved in the 100 years since these events happened. The role that the dynamic between the three groups and the role that the Kurdish population has played in expressing remorse and arguably through their struggle, creating a space for discussions of past events. That was the underlying impetus for the story. And I think talking not about what happened 100 years ago, but how the communities have moved forward, how the relationships have changed, how Turkish society has changed. It's worth noting Turkish society is very different than it was a generation ago. When even discussing publicly the issue of Armenians and genocide, you would have ended up losing your job, if not be thrown in jail. So that was the underlying goal, is not what happened 100 years ago, but how the groups have moved forward 100 years on. And weaving together those stories into this multimedia project was it was a powerful experience hearing people talk about it today.
Now, you spoke to a number of academics and locals, many of whom were Kurds. How do they see their role in the mass killings that took place 100 years ago?
What's interesting is that the dispute is often looked at through the prism of Turkish and Armenia. Turkey and Armenia there. Turks say it wasn't genocide, Armenia say it was genocide. End of story there. But the role of the Kurds in this history and in the landscape of this part of Turkey, I think, is one. Of course, it's known to the Turkish and the Kurds and the Armenian population, but I don't think it's known for a global audience, a wider audience. The Kurds, many Kurdish tribes and chieftains played a role in the killings and the deportation of Armenians that began in 1915. Not all. Some Kurdish tribes and chieftains actually sheltered Armenians, rescued them, helped them escape, helped them change their identities. But regardless, Kurds played a role in the killings. And now, the Turkish relationship between the two groups is still a work in progress, an evolving position. And again, it hinges on what exactly happened on 1915. Was it genocide? Was it mass killings? But regardless, the dynamic is changing between the three groups 100 years after the killings.
Now, what is the relationship now, or how are Armenians treated in Turkey? Not just Armenians, but other Christian groups or ethnic minorities in Turkey. What's the relationship there?
In Diyarbakir, as I said, there is no one really knows what the population of these hidden Armenians are. In Istanbul, however, there's a sizable population of Armenians living openly, practicing their faith, engaged in commerce. 40,000 to 60,000 is the number of Armenians that are believed to be living openly in Istanbul. There's no overt discrimination that the Armenians feel on a routine basis.
And you can read Mike's full report, Atonement on the Tigris, and see all the multimedia elements associated with it at projects.voanews.com/atonement-tigris.